In 2010, the owner of the Segway company died after riding a Segway off a cliff. That's not a joke. That actually happened. And it's just one example of history's cruelest pattern. People dying in ways that are impossibly connected to who they were or what they created. Today we're counting down 9 of the most ironic deaths in modern history. Inventors killed by their inventions, experts killed by their expertise, and pioneers killed by their passions. These stories will make you question whether fate has a dark sense of humor. Entry number 1. The crocodile hunter killed by a stingray. Steve Irwin, September 4th, 2006. Steve Irwin built an empire on fearless interactions with the world's deadliest animals. The Australian crocodile hunter wrestled crocodiles, handled venomous snakes, and got closer to danger than anyone thought possible. So when news broke of his death, everyone assumed a crocodile got him. Instead, it was one of the ocean's most docile creatures. On September 4th, 2006, Irwin was filming underwater off Queensland, swimming near a bull stingray, generally harmless to humans. When the ray felt cornered, it lashed out defensively. The barb struck Irwin directly in the heart. He reportedly said, "I'm dying," before losing consciousness. He was 44 years old. Stingray fatalities are almost unheard of. Only 2 or 3 recorded in all of Australian history. The man who survived encounters with the world's deadliest animals was killed by a creature that almost never harms humans. As one marine biologist put it, a 1 in a million accident. Entry number 2. The Segway owner killed by his own product. Jimmy Heselden, September 26th, 2010. The Segway was unveiled in 2001 as revolutionary technology, a 2-wheeled, self-balancing scooter that would transform urban transportation. In 2009, British millionaire Jimmy Heselden bought the Segway company. He was passionate about the product's potential. On September 26, 2010, the 62-year-old was riding an off-road Segway around his West Yorkshire estate near a cliff overlooking the River Wharfe. Reports suggest he may have been reversing to let a dog walker pass. Somehow, he and the Segway went over the cliff edge, falling approximately 80 feet. The owner of the Segway company had been killed by his own product. Police ruled it a tragic accident. But the cosmic irony wasn't lost on anyone. Headlines worldwide noted the cruel coincidence. Though friends pointed out that Heselden had donated millions to charity, his death became a cautionary tale about the unpredictability of the machines we trust. Entry number 3. The flying car inventor Henry Smolinski, September 11th, 1973. Henry Smolinski dreamed of the future. Specifically, he dreamed of flying cars. In the early 1970s, he co-founded Advanced Vehicle Engineers and created the Ave Mizar, a bizarre-looking hybrid of a Ford Pinto and the rear section of a Cessna Skymaster airplane. The concept was ambitious: drive it on the road, then attach the wings and take to the skies. On September 11, 1973, Smolinski and his business partner Harold Blake took the Mizar for a test flight in California. Mid-air, one of the wing struts failed due to poor welding. The vehicle crashed, killing both men instantly. The inventor of the flying car died in a flying car crash. The AVE Mizar never made it to production, but Smolinski's dream didn't die with him. Today, several companies are still chasing the flying car concept, hopefully with better welding. Entry number 4. The Radium Enthusiast, Eben Byers, March 31st, 1932. In the 1920s, radium was considered miraculous. It was marketed in everything from toothpaste to health tonics as a cure-all for fatigue, impotence, and dozens of other ailments. Wealthy industrialist and golf champion Eben Byers became one of radium's biggest believers. After injuring his arm in 1927, his doctor recommended Radithor, certified radioactive water. Buyers loved it. Over 3 years, he consumed an estimated 1,400 bottles, 3 per day. He sent cases to friends. He gave some to his racehorses. Then his teeth started falling out. Radium accumulates in bones and slowly destroys them. By 1931, Byers had radium jaw. His entire upper jaw and most of his lower jaw had to be surgically removed. Holes were forming in his skull. He died on March 31st, 1932, at age 51, with 3 times the lethal dose of radium in his bones. The Wall Street Journal ran an unforgettable headline. "The radium water worked fine until his jaw came off." He was buried in a lead-lined coffin. 30 years later, his body was still radioactive. Entry number 5. The Prop Gun Accident. Brandon Lee, March 31st, 1993. Brandon Lee was the son of martial arts legend Bruce Lee. At 28, he was filming The Crow, a dark superhero movie that would finally make him a star in his own right. The production was plagued by strange accidents. A carpenter nearly electrocuted. A worker drove a screwdriver through his hand. Crew members whispered the film was cursed. On March 31st, 1993, Lee was filming a scene where his character gets shot. His co-star Michael Massey aimed a prop gun and pulled the trigger. No one knew a dummy bullet from an earlier scene had lodged in the barrel. The blank's explosive charge propelled it into Lee's abdomen. Brandon Lee died after 6 hours of surgery, playing a character who gets shot and killed in a scene where his character gets shot and killed. His father, Bruce Lee, had died unexpectedly at 32. Brandon was 28. Both are buried side by side in Seattle. The actor playing death met death playing his own death scene. Entry number 6. The Dancer and Her Scarf. Isadora Duncan, September 14th, 1927. Isadora Duncan was the mother of modern dance. She performed barefoot in flowing robes, always draped in her signature long scarves. On September 14th, 1927, the 50-year-old was in Nice, France, about to take an evening drive in an open-topped sports car. A friend urged her to wear a coat, but Duncan refused, wrapping herself in an enormous silk scarf instead. Before stepping in, she called out,
Adieu, mes amis. Je vais à la gloire.
Goodbye, my friends. I go to glory.
The driver pulled away. The scarf caught in the rear wheel spokes. Within seconds, Duncan was yanked from the vehicle, her neck broken instantly. The signature accessory that defined her artistic identity became the instrument of her death. Gertrude Stein's epitaph: affectations can be dangerous. Entry number 7. The Tennis Linesman. Dick Wertheim, September 15th, 1983. Dick Wertheim was a 61-year-old tennis linesman who had spent decades officiating matches. He knew the game inside and out. On September 10th, 1983, he was working the junior boys final at the U.S. Open between Stefan Edberg and Simon Ewell. Wertheim was seated in a folding chair, officiating the center line. Edberg unleashed an errant serve. The ball rocketed directly into Wertheim's groin. The impact knocked him backwards off his chair. His head struck the hard court surface. He never regained consciousness, dying 5 days later from brain bleeding. The man who dedicated his life to watching tennis balls was killed by a tennis ball. Edberg became one of tennis's greatest players, but was famous for never smiling on court. The 1983 final was why. Dick Wertheim remains the only person ever killed by a tennis ball at a professional match. Entry number 8. The Whiskey Distiller and the Safe. Jack Daniel, October 9th, 1911. The name Jack Daniel is synonymous with Tennessee whiskey, but the man himself, died in perhaps the most frustrating irony imaginable. According to distillery legend, one morning in 1906, Jack arrived at work early. He needed something from the company's safe, but couldn't remember the combination. His nephew usually handled that. Frustrated, Jack kicked the heavy iron safe. He broke his big toe. He refused to see a doctor. The toe became infected. Gangrene set in. Over the following years, doctors amputated his toe, then his foot, then his leg. Nothing stopped the blood poisoning. Jack Daniel died on October 9, 1911, from a kick to a safe. The man who built an empire on patience, aging whiskey for years, died from impatience with a locked door. The safe is still on display at the distillery. Tour guides end with, the moral? Never go to work early. Entry number 9. The King Killed by a Monkey. King Alexander of Greece, October 25, 1920. In October 1920, King Alexander of Greece was walking through his royal estate with his German shepherd, Fritz. A peaceful afternoon stroll for one of the most powerful men in Europe. Fritz got into a scuffle with a Barbary macaque, a palace pet monkey. When the 27-year-old king tried to separate them, a second monkey attacked, biting deeply into his leg. The wounds were cleaned but never properly treated. The king, embarrassed, asked that the incident be kept quiet. Within weeks, sepsis had spread through his body. His doctors debated amputation but couldn't agree. On October 25, 1920, King Alexander died, just 23 days after being bitten. A king! Killed by a pet monkey while breaking up a fight with a dog. Winston Churchill later wrote that 250,000 people may have died from the political chaos that followed, all traced back to one monkey bite. The man who ruled a nation was killed by an animal kept for amusement. 9 deaths. 9 cruel ironies. The crocodile hunter killed by a docile fish. The Segway owner killed by a Segway. The dancer killed by her scarf. The king killed by a pet. Maybe fate has a sense of humor. Or maybe we just notice the patterns after the fact. Either way, be careful what you become known for. You never know how the story ends. Subscribe for more accounts of bizarre deaths in history. And watch your step out there.